Maddox. I'm one of our senior recruiters at Davron Staffing, and I have with me today David Coreen, our owner and president here at Davron.
Hello.
And we're going to talk to you a little bit about how to prepare for a great interview. And we have years of experience. David's been involved with this for over 20 years, so I don't think there's anyone better that we can ask for some tips and tricks on how to actually land this dream job we're looking for. So there's actually an art to this. So there's art to properly prepare and prepare for and have a great interview. Today we'll be sharing some time-proven techniques to help you land your dream job. One of the first things we'd like to talk to you about is first be sure to review the position and website. I think if you show them that you've done your research on the company and come prepared, it goes a long way. David, what are your thoughts on that? How can we prepare for this? What are some good things to do up front?
I think if anything, Eric, when I interview recruiters and they come in and I ask them what they can tell me about Davron or what they can tell me about the position, and they're not able to verbalize a single thing or very little about what it is that they're interviewing for, I know I'm going to be on to the next person. So I think that if you are interviewing for a specific position, each position has its own nuances. It's very important to be able to read it word for word, the position, but also just as important to go to the company's website and look for little things, not just on their homepage, news events, moves that the company's made in the past, Eric. And I think that if you can verbalize that, I think if you go in and say something like, oh, yes, I saw your company is expanding, or I saw on social media that your company had a certain event. I know that when people interview here for positions and they're able to verbalize that, it goes a long way. I know, Eric, when you came here for some odd years ago, you were able to clearly articulate the position you were interviewing for, as well as what it is our company does. Here we are, so many years later. Those are my views on that.
Great point. I think it's one of those things where it is kind of a proven fact that you go in and have some things to talk to them about with their company. I can only imagine how far that's going to go. And I did feel prepared for our interview 4 years ago, and I'd say maybe I was a little more lucky than good on that one. I've learned a lot since I've been here. So
I don't know about that, Eric, but look, I think you come in here and we have had people that really don't even know the position that they're interviewing for, and we've had people come in and say, "Oh, what is it that you guys do?" How special can I possibly feel as an employer, and even more importantly, how special can an employer feel, like in your case, Eric, where you came in and you were able to verbalize exactly what the position was you were interviewing for, and you were able to relate your skills. You were able to talk fluidly to me about what it is that our company does. Again, here we are, 4 years later, so I think it's some time-proven advice for anybody else listening to this podcast.
Great point. I appreciate that. Next step, I'd say allow yourself sufficient travel time. You really got to keep in mind where you're at, because there's a lot of traffic and construction issues that happen, and you want to arrive in time. You don't want to be there any more than 10 minutes early in the lobby. It just kind of seems bad if you're there 30 minutes early, and like you're almost putting pressure on them to interview you, I think. So I know when we have people that interview with us, it's kind of a similar feeling, and I can understand it. What are your thoughts?
I think that you want to show respect, and you're dead on, Eric. You don't want to arrive a half hour or 45 minutes early, because you're not really showing respect for your time, the company's time. And you're right. It does set a certain expectation of, oh my, they're here 45 minutes early. I need to interview them. But at the same time, if pretend the interview is at 3:00, if you arrive at 3:01, that's such a negative thing as well. So I think that no more than 10 minutes early, maybe 5 minutes early. So it shows that you can keep your time. You're there. If they need you to fill out some initial paperwork, great. But I think that that's some pretty good time-proven advice. The other thing about it is that the people that you're interviewing with, it's easy to draw a blank. So I think it's important to write those down. We have people that come in and say, I know I have an interview with somebody, but I can't remember who it was. It's not the worst thing to say, but in the same respect, write those down, get there early, not too early, and I think you'll be off on the right foot.
Oh, thanks. Sounds like great advice. I know on the next one, this is a big one for me, just because I understand how this affects everyone. If you smoke, try not to do so immediately before the interview. Makes perfect sense. Elaborate a little, David. What do you think?
For better or worse, people know that smokers are generally associated with, well, taking more breaks. Take a smoke break is one. More absenteeism, health issues. You come in smelling like smoke. It is just, you don't get a second chance for a first impression. So if you smoke, don't. Don't before the interviews. I think the point over here, I don't know. I think there's some other things that you can do, whether it is a nicotine lozenge or patch, or at least make sure that you don't smoke immediately before it. I think enough studies have suggested that when employers know that you're a smoker, even though the company may not have a non-smoking policy, they won't hire you just because of that. So I wouldn't be smoking just before the interview, Eric, is kind of my thought there.
Yeah, I can definitely understand why. One question on that, real quick.
Sure.
As far as colognes, people want to smoke and throw on extra. What do you think?
I think not. I think that if you have a choice between wearing a ton of cologne or not, I wouldn't. I know that in our case, in our office, we have somebody that has allergies, and they're very sensitive. They're very sensitive to cologne. They're very sensitive to perfume. So we had a situation where somebody came in with a tremendous amount of perfume. I'm not sure if she was a smoker or not, Eric, but I know that she was a heavy perfumer. And the person that is allergic to perfume had a reaction, obviously suffered through the interview, but it was suffering through the interview. So my suggestion is simply not. I think that if your thought here is to cover up your smoke, well, you're better off not smoking. And I think if you have a choice between wearing cologne and perfume or not wearing cologne and perfume, I would opt and go with the side of safety, caution, and not wear any of that as well. Eric, good question.
Appreciate that. I'm going to put the next two together, actually, because we want to avoid bad mouthing our previous employees or sharing those negative experiences. Always try and verbalize something positive. I always try and, if you have nothing nice to say, then say nothing at all. Well, it's kind of that way. Always find some positives. And then the next one says to try and keep your answers brief, short, and to the point. I think those tie in together almost, because if you start getting too long-winded about things, you're obviously going to bring up things you don't want to discuss. And I think that's where that tails in. What do you think about that? What do you suggest?
I think you're exactly dead on. I mean, for one thing, I know this, that when we have people, and you know this as well, being a shareholder in the company, Eric, somebody interviews and they do nothing but badmouth their previous employers, you know that they're going to badmouth us as well. And also, you just come across as overall negative. So try to reframe your answers, no matter what kind of a bad taste or bad experience you might have had with your previous employer. We've had people come in and say that there was financial mismanagement. They didn't know what they were doing, spending money like a drunken sailor. Fair enough, and maybe that's the way that you feel, and you and I as recruiters, we hear it very regularly, Eric, but think about framing it in the terms of, unfortunately, the company ran into some financial difficulties and their financial model, or they were not able to sustain. Rather, what you want to do is you want to, as you said, a 2-for-1 special here, Eric, is verbalize your strengths, how you can be an asset to the company. So if you are interviewing, and our focus is on architects, engineers, construction professionals, if you're interviewing for a mechanical engineer position, well, I think that your focus is how you can be an asset to the company, how you can be the best mechanical engineer the company has ever hired. Remember, the reason people hire somebody is to help promote their business, help propagate whatever it is that they're doing. I think if you can verbalize how you can be an asset, how you can be a help, it'll go a long way. And absolutely avoid sharing negative experiences, bad mouthing previous employers. I know when that happens, that's not somebody that we hire over here at Davron. I know many of our clients feel the same.
I agree. I just don't see any way that that comes out looking good in any way. You also covered, I'd say, our next one. It says relate your skills to the responsibilities for the position. I think you're kind of hit on that as well, except for the fact that if you're interviewing as an architect and you know the job position and you've read it over well, you should simply be able to transfer those skills, right? I mean, you should be able to understand how you qualify for this position, not just show up blindly. Talk about yourself, build yourself.
I completely agree. And if you're interviewing for pretend a healthcare architect position, and you know that this firm has specializes in building hospitals, well, if you're an architect that has built hospitals in the past, then that is what you want to hit on. It's very possible that as an architect, you have a broad-based, diversified background. Maybe you've designed some homes, maybe you've designed a shopping center. But in this particular case, if you're interviewing with a healthcare architecture firm and they're looking for an architect that has experience in building hospitals, I think it's nice that someone may have broad breadth of experience, but in this case, hit on what's important. Hit on the fact that they're building hospitals. I'll give you another quick example here, Aaron. If they are using Revit, and Revit, you know this, is a design tool. It's kind of like AutoCAD, except it's Revit, and it is very popular and really gaining more and more traction and popularity. So if you are an engineer, if you are a designer, an architect, and the company specifically says that we are looking for someone that has strong Revit skills, and you happen to have strong Revit skills, I think it's very important for you to keep hitting on your Revit skills. So again, to go back to your initial point, how to relate your skills to the responsibilities of the position. Well, it ties in with reviewing the position, reading over it carefully, picking out what's important to the company. And in this example, I'm using hospitals and Revit, and then hit on those as well, while at the same time, as you already know, avoiding badmouth previous employers and smoking right before the interview and putting on a whole bunch of foo-foo juice as well, Eric. What's next?
I'd say on this one, we want to bring some questions. And I know we talk about bringing these questions in. We have an interview, it's over. They look at you and say to you, what questions you have for me? Nothing's worse than a deer in headlights and saying, seems like you've covered everything. We're good. I hate to hear that. What are your thoughts?
I do too. Nothing says I'm unable to keep a conversation going. I'm not interested, Eric, as much as somebody says I don't have any questions. And you're right. At the end of every interview, I turn to the person in front of me and I say, well, do you have any questions? And when I hear, nope, you've pretty much covered everything, just like you said, it gives me room for pause. I don't know. Questions like, what kind of people do you think fit in best into the culture of Davron? What's your career growth? What makes someone successful? Tell me more about whatever may come to mind, the nuances, day-to-day responsibilities of the position, and so on. You don't want to draw a blank, and you're right, a deer frozen in headlights, it's very easy to say, oh, you've covered everything, thanks, David. But really, Eric, writing down those questions is the key. So I think that if you come in and you bring questions with you to ask, and when I say bring questions with you, I really do genuinely mean bring those questions with you and write them down. And you can grab those questions from anywhere. It could be from the website, could be from the job description. If they're saying that you're an architect that does hospitals, well, how much of your time is spent doing Revit drawings versus meeting with clients and the like are all great questions to ask and personalize.
That's a big thing to bring. I agree with you. I like the fact you said extend the conversation. That's a great thing. This is a big one we've really hit. Smile. Enjoy the job. Tell them how you want to be there. Look friendly. I can't tell you how many times we've seen people come in, and if you're coming in and you're all business, which although I appreciate that, show me that personality a little bit. Show me that you want to get along with everybody. What do you think? Is that what we're opening up here?
You know how I feel about it. Over here at Davron, you and I personally both deal with stress with humor. So smiling, showing somebody that you're easy to work with. People want to work with people that they enjoy. So I think a smile, and even a forced smile, It goes a long way. And also in the same respect, it kind of like you fake it, you make it. So if you're smiling, in a way, it'll kind of tell your body to relax a little bit, and a not so subtle message to the person interviewing you across the table. Hey, he's smiling. Maybe I ought to smile as well. Kind of relaxes things up. So yes, absolutely, Eric. It's very good advice you're giving here. Smiling is important. I support that. I know we're both smiling right now doing this.
Yes, we are. Afterwards, writing a thank you note to the interviewer, kind of expressing interest in the position. Big move. One of the things we've really tried to hammer home on our own, understanding the process and how this works. You've gone through that entire process. I met with these people. I had a great interview. I thought I enjoyed them. I smiled. I brought all these questions. Now we're at the end. What am I doing here?
I think that if you want to really separate yourself away from the other people that have interviewed, if you want to put yourself in, I would say less than 10% of the people that interview, write a simple thank you note. And it takes away any aura of mystery. Remember, an interview is a two-way street, Aaron. So after we interviewed you, I thought the interview went really well. I'm sure you did. But if you write a thank you note and you express interest in the position, now you've taken away any mystery on whether or not Eric is interested in coming to work for us. So if you have a good interview and you think that it's the kind of company that you want to go to work for, well, take away the mystery. Write a thank you note. Show them, express interest in it. If you are interested in finding out the contents of what a thank you note should look like, we have plenty of examples on our website, Davron.net, or just Google it up. But yes, I think that it's absolutely critical. Aaron, writing a thank you note is a good point.
I love that part of it. And lastly, this is a big one too, and it's one that we sometimes have problems touching on because it is a touchy subject at times, but it's one that everybody has to kind of embrace a bit. What are you going to wear to your interview? Business attire usually is appropriate. Even if they are casual, it kind of respects the effort on your part. So it shows that you're willing to respect the people you're interviewing with, regardless of that position. But tell me a little more. I know you have great thoughts on this one.
Now, Wall Street Journal did a study, and comparing for all other variables, meaning that the person, let's pretend, are both about the same age, same sex, same education background, same type of experience, years of experience, same salary requirement. The guy that wore a suit had a 30% chance of getting an offer, a higher 30% chance of getting an offer than one that did not wear a suit. So I think that if anything, dressing up, and I know that nowadays it's fashionable. I know for us, we're sitting in shorts and a t-shirt and flip-flops. But oddly enough, even though I may interview people that way, Eric, and anybody that goes on our website can see our culture is very, very casual. Nonetheless, we ourselves still love to see people dress up. Think of it in a different way. You go to a school, why does the principal wear a suit and tie? It commands respect. It shows authority. So I think it's a not so subtle message of saying, hey, I know what I'm doing. I just put a suit on. So even if you don't, well, if anything, it gives you about a 30% chance higher, a 30% greater chance of getting an offer from a company. And that in and of itself, Eric, is very statistically significant. You may not feel comfortable with it, but I promise you this, you go in there wearing a suit, it'll really set you apart. It'll really go a long way.
That's great advice. I thank you, David, again. And this is David, Coreen, and Eric Maddox with Davron. Quick recap: review a website, position description, be on top of it, understand the company culture, respect the company's time. Don't show up too early. Be there around 10 minutes early. Don't smoke. Try and avoid as much as you can on the cologne and the perfume. Don't stand out for the wrong reasons. Don't badmouth anyone. Always stay positive. Try and find anything you can to stay positive in that situation. Keep it short, keep it brief, to the point, and also relate your skills. Make sure they understand why you're a perfect fit for what they need. What can you do well for them? And have questions written down. It's very important to write them down. Write down the people you're talking to when you show up so you understand who they are. And just smile and make sure you enjoy the process. Afterwards, send a thank you note to your interviewers expressing your interest. I know it goes a long way. And dress appropriately. understand what we're doing, and just be sure to visit our website, man. Good luck to your interview. Visit our website at www.Davron.net for more tips on how to land your dream job. Eric and David, Coreen, have a good one. Thank you, guys.